Imagine this. You are standing in the center of a library that contains every book ever written, every thought ever recorded, every debate ever had. The shelves stretch into an infinite, humming, digital sky. Every answer to every conceivable question is within your grasp, not pages away, but a mere flicker of an impulse away. You want to understand the cosmos? The secrets of quantum mechanics unfold before you in a symphony of light. You want to grasp the nuances of ancient philosophy? Plato and Seneca speak directly to you, their words rendered in perfect clarity. This is the promise of our age, omniscience at your fingertips, a utopia of the mind. But as you stand in this cathedral of knowledge, a strange and unsettling feeling begins to creep into your bones. It's a quiet hum beneath the noise of infinite information, a cold spot in the warm glow of the screen. You have access to everything, yet you feel a profound sense of emptiness. You have seen 1,000 arguments, 1,000,000 data points, 1,000,000,000 opinions, but your own convictions feel hollow, rented. The more you consume, the less you seem to possess a thought that is truly your own. You scroll through the endless feeds of outrage and agreement, of viral certainties and algorithmically approved truths. You find yourself nodding along to arguments you haven't fully examined, sharing conclusions you haven't earned, and feeling righteous anger about injustices you've only just learned of. It's easy. It's frictionless. It feels like connection, like participation. But later, in the dead of night when the digital noise fades, a terrifying silence takes its place. In that silence, a whisper emerges from the depths of your own consciousness, and it asks a devastating question. Was that you thinking? Or were you just thinking what you were told to think? This is the great paradox of our time. We are living in the most information-rich society in human history, yet we are witnessing the dawn of a new dark age, an age of collective stupidity. How can it be that, with the Library of Alexandria in every pocket, we are becoming less wise? Why does the ocean of information feel not like a source of nourishment, but like a current pulling us under, drowning our capacity for independent thought in a riptide of consensus? When did the noble pursuit of truth?
What if the tools we built to liberate the human mind have, instead, constructed the most comfortable and invisible prison ever conceived? A prison where the walls are woven from our own desire for validation, the bars forged from our fear of ostracism, and the warden is an algorithm that feeds us exactly what we want to hear, ensuring we never have to confront the discomfort of a truly original or challenging thought. The gnawing feeling in your gut isn't just digital fatigue, it's an existential alarm. It's the last ember of your authentic self, glowing in the dark, whispering that you are becoming a ghost in your own mind. This phenomenon is not a failure of technology, it is a failure of nerve. It is not a glitch in the system, but a deep-seated vulnerability in the human psyche, now exploited at a scale previously unimaginable. To understand how we arrived at this precipice, where thinking for yourself has become a quiet act of rebellion, we must look beyond the screen. We must journey inward, into the hidden architecture of the mind and the ancient philosophical currents that have shaped and are now threatening to unmake the very essence of who we are. The problem is not out there. The war is in here. That war in your head, that quiet sense of cognitive dissonance, is not a malfunction. It is the last defense of a sovereign territory under siege. The enemy is not an algorithm, nor is it a political ideology. The enemy is far older, far more intimate. It is the terrifying, exhilarating burden of true freedom and our profound, instinctual desire to escape from it. To understand the roots of this collective intellectual decline, we must first face the uncomfortable truth that we are not being pushed into this state. We are, in many ways, running toward it with open arms. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche saw this coming over a century ago. He warned of the rise of a herd morality, a system of values designed not to elevate the strong, but to protect the comfortable. The herd, he argued, fears the outlier, the individual who dares to create their own meaning, their own good and evil. The highest virtue in such a system is not courage or wisdom, but conformity. To be good is to be agreeable, predictable, and above all, harmless. Now, imagine this deep-seated human impulse amplified by a global network designed for instantaneous social feedback. Every like, every share, every upvote is a tiny, satisfying pellet of approval, reinforcing your connection to the herd. Conversely, every dissenting comment, every downvote, every unfollow is a small sting of ostracism, a digital whisper of the ancient primal fear. If you stray, you will be cast out and left to die. Your nervous system doesn't know the difference between being exiled from your prehistoric tribe and being cancelled online. The threat feels just as existential, and so you learn to self-censor. You trim the sharp edges of your thoughts, sand down your unique perspectives, and offer up a smoother, more palatable version of yourself, hoping for the herd's validating embrace. This retreat from individuality finds its psychological explanation in the work of Carl Jung. Jung spoke of the persona, the idealized mask we present to the world, and the shadow, the hidden repository of all the things we repress about ourselves. Our doubts, our insecurities, our darker impulses. The digital world has become a grand theater for the persona. We curate our profiles, showcasing our successes, our moral certainties, our flawless identities. But where does the shadow go? It is pushed further down, into the dark, where it doesn't disappear, but festers. The hive mind offers a seductive solution to this internal conflict. It allows you to project your personal shadow onto a collective enemy, the other side, the unbelievers, the deplorable ones. You no longer have to wrestle with your own internal contradictions, because you can find catharsis in the righteous fury directed at a common foe. The group absorbs your shadow, and in exchange, it gives you a clean, simple, and powerful identity. You trade the messy, complex reality of your whole self for the satisfying, one-dimensional role of a soldier in a holy war. We have been tragically mistaken in our dystopian prophecies. We searched the horizon for George Orwell's 1984, for a world of overt censorship, state surveillance, and the boot of oppression stamping on a human face. But we missed the far more subtle and insidious prophecy of Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. Huxley did not fear a world where truth was concealed, but one where it was drowned in a sea of irrelevance. He envisioned a population controlled not by pain, but by pleasure, not by force, but by the relentless drip of trivial entertainment and superficial distractions. This is the world you now inhabit. Critical thought requires silence, focus, and the mental stamina for deep, sustained contemplation. Yet your environment is engineered to shatter your attention into 1,000 tiny fragments. The dopamine-driven feedback loops of social media, the endless scroll, the bite-sized video, these are not merely diversions. They are tools of cognitive re-engineering. They are rewiring your brain to crave constant stimulation, to prefer the quick hit of a meme over the slow burn of a complex argument, to choose the comfort of a viral opinion over the arduous work of forming your own. We are not being held captive. We are being endlessly entertained in our cells, and we have come to love our captors because they feel like fun. At its core, this is an existential crisis. The French philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre famously stated that we are condemned to be free. This freedom is a terrifying prospect. It means there is no preordained meaning, no cosmic script. You, and you alone, are responsible for creating purpose in a fundamentally meaningless universe. The weight of that responsibility is, for many, unbearable. The collective offers the ultimate escape from this existential dread. It gives you a prepackaged purpose, a clear set of beliefs, a defined tribe, and, most importantly, a list of enemies to give your life a sense of urgent direction. As the psychoanalyst Viktor Frankl observed, the primary drive in human beings is the will to meaning. But what happens when that will is not exercised, but outsourced? When you cease the difficult work of forging your own meaning and instead subscribe to one, you become hollow. You are no longer the author of your own life. but an actor playing a part in someone else's play. This is the hidden architecture of our modern malaise, the primal fear of the herd, the psychological need to project our shadow, the seductive narcosis of distraction, and the flight from existential freedom. These forces have converged into a perfect storm, silently eroding the foundations of individual consciousness. The true cost of this surrender is not simply a decline in the quality of our discourse. It is a slow, imperceptible hollowing out of the self. And the consequences of this invisible transaction, this trade of sovereignty for comfort, are now beginning to bleed from the digital realm into the very fabric of our reality, shaping our world in ways we are only just beginning to see. This hollowing out of the self is not some distant, abstract philosophical concept. It is a tangible reality being written into your neural pathways every single day. The consequences of surrendering your cognitive sovereignty are not just societal. They are deeply personal, shaping the very texture of your inner life until you no longer recognize its landscape. It begins with a subtle shift in your own mind. You find it harder to be alone with your thoughts. Silence becomes uncomfortable, a void that must be filled with a podcast, a video, a stream of content. The capacity for deep, uninterrupted focus, the very bedrock of critical thinking, atrophies like an unused muscle. Your brain, a marvel of neuroplasticity, is being physically rewired. The constant demand to switch contexts, from an email to a news alert to a social media post, weakens the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for executive function, impulse control, and long-term reasoning. Simultaneously, the amygdala, your brain's ancient fear and outrage center, is being chronically overstimulated. The algorithms have discovered that nothing holds attention like fear and indignation. And so, your daily information diet becomes a cocktail of microdoses of panic, anxiety, and tribal anger. You are not just feeling more reactive and emotionally volatile. You are being neurologically conditioned to be that way. Your baseline state is shifting from calm reflection to a low-grade, perpetual fight-or-flight response. In this state, nuance is impossible. Compassion is a liability. The only instinct is to identify threats and align with your tribe for safety. This neurologically primed state makes you a perfect host for an army of cognitive biases, which the digital environment doesn't just trigger, but weaponizes at scale. Confirmation bias is no longer a minor flaw in your reasoning. It is the very architecture of your reality. You live inside a perfectly constructed echo chamber, a reality tunnel where every article, every video, and every recommended post serves to reinforce what you already believe. Your convictions are never challenged, so they never have to become strong. They simply become loud. This ecosystem breeds a terrifying intellectual arrogance known as the Dunning-Kruger effect, where the less you truly understand about a complex subject, the more confident you feel in your opinion of it. You mistake the echo of a million other voices for the weight of evidence, and the intensity of your tribe's emotion for the depth of your own insight. Your entire perception of the world becomes distorted by the availability heuristic. The world you see is not the world that is, but the world that is most emotionally and repeatedly presented to you. A single dramatic event, endlessly looped and commented upon, can feel more real and threatening than a slow, complex, and far more significant crisis. Your sense of proportion is destroyed. Your priorities are not your own. They are set by whatever narrative is trending. When you scale this up to the level of society, the consequences are catastrophic. We are building a culture that is structurally incapable of solving its own problems because it can no longer tolerate complexity. Every issue, no matter how intricate, is flattened into a brutal, binary caricature. You are either with us or against us, pure or evil, an ally or a monster. Nuance, the recognition that reality is messy, that good people can disagree, that problems have multiple causes, is treated as a form of moral cowardice, a betrayal of the cause. This binary psychosis paralyzes us. We cannot build bridges because we have been taught that the other side is not just wrong, but irredeemably corrupt. We cannot solve problems because we can no longer even agree on a shared reality in which to discuss them. The most insidious consequence of all is the emotional one. You are strapped into a mood roller coaster that is operated by an invisible hand. Your outrage, your hope, your despair. These feelings are no longer generated from your own life experiences, but are dictated by the 24-hour news cycle and the viral whims of the collective. You are living in a state of constant, low-grade emotional exhaustion. And this, perhaps, is the entire point. A population that is anxious, fragmented, and emotionally drained lacks the psychic energy for the demanding work of citizenship, of community, and most of all, of critical thought. The system that creates the sickness also sells you the palliative: more distraction, more outrage, more empty connection. It is the perfect, self-perpetuating trap. You feel it, don't you? The psychic friction. The sense that you are performing a version of yourself rather than simply being. This feeling is not a sign that you are broken. It is a sign that a part of you is still fighting. It is the ghost of your sovereign self rattling its chains, reminding you that this state of being, this reactive, hollowed-out existence, is not the one you were meant for. The pain is a signal. The emptiness is a call to action. It is the urgent, desperate plea of your own consciousness to begin a rebellion. Not a rebellion against some external enemy, but an internal revolution for the reclamation of your own mind. This internal revolution does not begin with a battle cry, but with a whisper. It does not start by fighting the world, but by turning away from it. The first, most radical act of rebellion in an age of compulsory connection and constant noise is to choose silence. You must consciously carve out moments of solitude, not as an escape, but as a destination. This is not the empty, anxious loneliness of waiting for a notification. It is the profound, generative solitude of self-encounter. In the deafening cathedral of the collective, silence is the only sanctuary where you can begin to hear your own voice again. You have been trained to fear this state, to view boredom as a problem to be solved. But the truth is the opposite. Boredom is not a void. It is a canvas. It is the fertile ground from which original thought springs. The path to reclaiming your mind is not through addition, but through a ruthless and deliberate subtraction. You do not need more information. You need dramatically less. Practice a kind of digital asceticism. Become the stoic gatekeeper of your own attention, recognizing it as your most precious and finite resource. For too long, you have given it away for free to corporations and outrage merchants who harvest it for profit. Reclaim it. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught that the chief task in life is to separate what is in our control from what is not. The endless, chaotic stream of global information is not in your control. Your choice to engage with it, however, is. This is the only power that matters. Unfollow, mute, delete. Curate your mental environment with the same discipline you would a sacred garden. Protect it from the invasive weeds of triviality and manufactured rage. Once you have created this space, you must learn to wield the most powerful weapon in the arsenal of the free thinker: the question. The hive mind is an answer-generating machine, providing pre-packaged certainties for every occasion. Your rebellion lies in becoming a question-generating machine. Revive the ancient art of the Socratic method as a daily practice. When confronted with a viral belief, a trending narrative, a righteous crusade, your first impulse must not be to agree or disagree, but to ask, says who? What is the unspoken assumption here? What would be the counter-argument if I were forced to make it? Why might a good and intelligent person believe the opposite? Most critically, you must ask, how does this belief serve the person or group promoting it? This transforms you from a passive receptacle of information into an active interrogator of reality. You begin to see the hidden architecture of influence that underpins the world of ideas. You are no longer playing the game. You are analyzing it from above. This process will inevitably be uncomfortable. It will force you into a state of cognitive dissonance, a feeling the modern world has taught you to treat as a psychological error. This is perhaps the most crucial mindset shift. You must learn to embrace that discomfort as a signal of growth. Actively seek out the most intelligent arguments from people you disagree with. Do not consume them with your defenses up, ready to rebut. Read them with the genuine intention of understanding their perspective so well you could argue it for them. This practice, known as steel manning, is an act of supreme intellectual courage. It forces you to see the flaws in your own thinking and to replace the cheap certainty of the tribe with the hard-won, nuanced humility of the wise. Through these practices, solitude, subtraction, questioning, and embracing discomfort, you begin to build what the Stoics called an inner citadel. This is a fortress within your own mind, a bastion of reason and tranquility that is impervious to the chaos of the external world. Each time you choose a book over a feed, you lay another stone. Each time you sit with a difficult question instead of grabbing for an easy answer, you reinforce the walls. Each time you resist the pull of a meaningless online battle, you raise the ramparts. Journaling becomes a crucial tool in this construction, not for an audience, but for the stark privacy of your own mind. It is where you untangle your own thoughts from the chorus of the collective, where you can have an honest conversation with yourself and rediscover what you truly believe away from the judging eyes of the herd. Something remarkable begins to happen as your citadel takes shape. The constant, low-grade anxiety starts to recede. The desperate need for external validation loosens its grip. A quiet, unshakable confidence begins to bloom in its place. A confidence born not from the arrogance of being right, but from the deep, internal security of knowing how to think. You are no longer a feather tossed about in the hurricane of public opinion. You are the eye of the storm. This is the feeling of cognitive sovereignty. It is the first taste of true freedom. But this reclamation, this construction of an impregnable self, is only the beginning. Once you have secured your own mind, you are ready for the final, most profound realization. The one that will change not just how you think, but how you see reality itself. You have pulled back from the noise. You have built your inner citadel and secured the sovereignty of your own mind. But this fortress is not a final destination. It is a staging ground. The purpose of reclaiming your mind is not to fill it with better, smarter, more correct information. The purpose is to prepare you for the final and most liberating realization of all, the one that reframes the entire human experience. The ultimate truth is not a new belief to acquire, but a fundamental identity to shed. It is this: you are not your thoughts. You are not your beliefs. You are not your ideology. For your entire life, you have been conditioned to believe the opposite. You have been taught to fuse your sense of self with the contents of your mind. I am a liberal. I am a conservative. I am a spiritual person. I am a skeptic. We build these identities, these mental structures, and then we spend our lives defending them, as if we are defending our very existence. And in a way, we are. Because when your identity is welded to a belief, any attack on that belief feels like a personal, existential threat. This is the source of all the fragility, the outrage, the desperate, vicious tribalism you see in the world. It is the frantic thrashing of egos terrified of their own dissolution. The final rebellion is to perform a kind of psychic surgery on yourself. It is to deliberately, consciously, decouple your sense of I from the parade of thoughts, emotions, and opinions that march through your awareness. You must come to see that your thoughts are not you. They are events in your consciousness. They are weather patterns passing through the sky of your mind. You are not the storm. You are the sky. This is the great liberation. When you shift your center of gravity from the content of your mind to the silent, observing context in which that content appears, the entire game changes. You are no longer a player on the field, desperately fighting for your team. You are the one watching from the stands, able to see the entire field, the strategies, the players, and the absurdity of the game itself. From this vantage point, you can examine any belief, even your most cherished ones, with calm, dispassionate curiosity. You can pick it up, turn it over, appreciate its structure, see its flaws, and then place it back down without being attached to it. The fear is gone. An attack on an idea is no longer an attack on you. The compulsive need for validation disappears, replaced by an insatiable curiosity. The world of online warfare no longer looks like a series of urgent moral battles, but like a tragic theater of sleepwalkers, each convinced that their dream is the only reality, fighting to the death over shadows. And this new sight does not lead to cynical detachment, but to a profound and aching compassion. You see your own past self in every furious comment, in every dogmatic proclamation. This redefines the entire purpose of thinking. The goal is no longer to find a truth to serve as a final answer, an ideological home in which you can rest. That is the goal of the frightened ego. The goal of a free mind is to become a more and more perfect instrument for perceiving reality, without distortion. Truth ceases to be a static noun you possess and becomes a dynamic verb you practice. The world is infinitely complex, and your liberation lies in the dance of constantly refining your understanding, of embracing uncertainty, of living in the vibrant, open-ended question. You trade the brittle comfort of certainty for the resilient joy of perpetual discovery. This is what it means to truly wake up. The collective stupor is not a state of being wrong. It is a state of being asleep, of dreaming a dream so vivid you forget you are the dreamer. The voices of the herd, the alarms of the algorithm, the sirens of outrage, that is the soundtrack of the dream. To break free is to recognize the dream as a dream. Your ultimate purpose, then, is not to run around screaming at the other dreamers, trying to wake them by force. That will only make you a character in their dream. Your purpose is to embody the quiet, unshakable lucidity of wakefulness, to act with clarity and compassion, to build, to create, to ask beautiful questions, and to offer a calm port in the storm for any other soul who is tired of the noise and is looking for a way to wake themselves. The world is screaming for you to join its armies, to pick a flag, to lose yourself in the intoxicating certainty of the crowd. But the universe, in its vast, intelligent silence, is offering a different invitation. It is waiting for you to choose yourself.